Transmission.
Welcome, Transmission fans. This is a special edition show with the CEO of Meteor, Geoff Schmidt. Hello, Geoff.
Thanks. Hey.
And my boy, Sashko. What's up, man?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey. So this special edition show, we're going to be diving into Geoff's brain. We're going to see what he's excited about and everything, not only in Meteor, but just like in the wider world. Geoff is a very prolific person, and I can't wait. I've been looking forward for this section. So Geoff, I have the first question.
All right.
What outcomes would you like to see this year from MDG personally? Now, this doesn't have to be like anything that's on your roadmap right now officially, but like you personally, what would you like to see happen?
I'm so excited about Apollo. I can hardly sleep sometimes when I think about what the possibilities are there. And I would like to see us working together, not just with the Meteor community, but with the broader JavaScript community and the broader GraphQL community, ship something that is really exciting, really widely useful, and see it adopted not just inside the Meteor community, but also across the broader JavaScript community. I think there's a big opportunity to make a difference there and build a component that's valuable to lots of different people, and really see a lot of the ideas that we've been developing in the Meteor community really blossom forth into something that is even more widely used. Very
cool. So Apollo is on your mind for 2016, huh?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm stoked about it too. It is the potential to be such a game changer. So no pressure, Sashko.
I'm on it.
Right on. Very cool. Okay, so Geoff, give us like some fun insight. If you could like totally just have no pressure and just dream for a bit. Like, what do you see in like Meteor's future for like 2.0, 3.0, you know, something in like 2100 or 2100?
Well, you know, this is always dangerous.
It is, but it's fun. It's just,
I know that I can come up with enough dreams in 3 minutes to occupy all of us at MDG and probably in the community for 100 years. So I like your, and many of these things are more difficult on close inspection than they actually appear. So I'm not going to pretend that any of these are good ideas, but
right. Yeah.
Let's just open the bad idea file for a little while.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
let's open Geoff's bad idea file.
We're not making any promises here. We're like,
okay, yeah.
Really like having fun.
Dream big time.
Yes.
So I think it would be really awesome. Well, okay. Let me back up a second and talk about a vision, right, for app development. And I'm going to use a metaphor. And the metaphor is video production. So maybe app for what we're doing right now, because there's also a video component. I know a lot of you are listening on the podcast, but we're also taping this. So I just think about, if you go back, 10, 15 years, not that long ago, let's say you wanted to record a video that was going to be seen by 1 million people. What would you have to do? Like you'd need millions of dollars of cameras. You'd need the camera operators. You'd need a whole post-production studio that also costs millions of dollars. You need to buy a lot of film. But then even after all that, you would need either a celluloid, like a plant that could actually print this onto like many copies onto film, and a fleet of trucks and a chain of movie theaters. Or maybe you'd need a global satellite network, like take your pick. And all that, if you just wanted to record something and see a bunch of people and have a bunch of people see it, there was literally no alternative. But now a 13-year-old can record a video on her iPad, do the nonlinear editing right on the iPad, and then hit upload to YouTube, and then 1 million people could see it in a day if there's 1 million people that want to see it. And it's a huge change, and it's had major impacts on our society, and it's been incredibly empowering, and it's unlocked a ton of economic value, and it's allowed all kinds of things to exist that couldn't previously exist. I'd like to see the same thing happen with application software development. It should be that easy and that fast for just about anyone who wants to take the time to learn to build an application and then get it out there to a mass audience and truly operated at scale. And we're starting to reach a point in history where a lot of the stuff isn't fundamentally hard. 10 years ago, a lot of the stuff was fundamentally hard. computers were just too slow. The internet wasn't good enough. A lot of some of the basic technology about distributed systems hadn't even been invented yet. We're starting to reach a point where we can start to envision the day that that would be possible. So I'm always thinking about what might that future look like in terms of the tooling, and what actions do we take today to responsibly and gradually build the foundation that will let us one day get to that point. So with that preface, if I can have permission to dream of what that sci-fi Minority Report future might look like.
You have total permission.
Yeah. Well, I imagine the first thing I want to put out there is the idea of a round-tripping GUI editor, by which I mean you can open up your, maybe JSX takes us a step backwards from this compared to HTML templates. I mean, it takes us a step forward in a lot of other areas, but let's assume we have a framework that's based on HTML templates. Wouldn't it be cool if you had a editor where you could open up your editor and you could see your application screens, and you could edit those screens and you could edit the layout kind of like Interface Builder, maybe kind of like something like Webflow, which I have a lot of admiration of some of their UI choices. But then when you saved, it didn't save to proprietary format. It actually saved to your actual HTML files. So it's actually editing those files in place. And then what if you could click on those components and you could write the JavaScript, like the event handlers and the data connections, maybe even design your schema with a drag and drop schema builder right inside that tool, and it's editing those very same JavaScript or GraphQL schema definition files and those CSS files. What if you could have that round-tripping editor? Well, if you carry out, and I think maybe this has been a dream of a lot of people for a long time, and no one's quite solved it. But I think maybe there's a chance if you can design the framework around the requirements that you would have for that editor to work, and maybe set up some good conventions. It's never going to work with an arbitrary set of never going to work with an arbitrary set of files, but maybe with a good set of conventions, you can make something that works 80% of the time. What this would mean is it would mean that people with a variety of skill levels could edit basic things about your application, or they could get started quickly and maybe put some pieces together, and then they could turn it over to a professional programmer once they hit the first snag, and we could incrementally make that better and better. That would take us to a world where we could host that thing in the cloud, and we could integrate it with GitHub and Galaxy and Atmosphere, or and NPM. So you go to a web page, there's an edit button. You click on the edit button, and you can actually edit the whole application right in your browser. You can see the code. You can change the screens. You can change the schema. And when you hit save, what it's actually doing is it's creating a branch in Git. It's not being deployed immediately. And then maybe the team at your company then maybe you're the marketing team and you're making these changes. And then the team at your company that does code reviews can go through your normal process for making sure those changes are good. And then you can hit deploy, and it's merged back to mainline through your CI processes and whatever your development processes and your code review processes are. And then it's deployed into Galaxy. And then along the way, you've also got this great library of components that you can pick from out of NPM, or Atmosphere, or however we end up structuring this, so that you can also share pieces of your application with people all over the world. So that's sort of my ideal vision of what I think a really awesome outcome would be, maybe in 10 years, right?
Okay.
But I want to put
I have a good friend.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I have a good friend that says that kind of shares that same vision, where he was like, in the future, I think like administrative assistants or executive assistants, they're gonna be the ones that are gonna be making the apps, really, and they're gonna bring it like 90% of the way, and that's gonna be the future. Like you're gonna in the future somehow the mystery of making apps and software development isn't going to be in the hands of hackers or really smart developers or whatnot, but it's going to be in the common folk, the person who's just like an admin assistant, like $12 an hour.
I want to throw one other thing out there, though. Two things. First of all, a big caveat, which is this has been a vision that people have had for decades. And in some ways, we're no closer. So it may just be impossible, or it may be possible, but a bad idea. And it's it's that possibility I think is really interesting. So that's the question I think about a lot in the shower. The other thing is,
that's really interesting.
Anyone who's worked in software for any amount of time knows that there's never going to be any shortage of software development jobs. So I don't think people should get alarmed about the idea that GUI builders are going to take our jobs. There's so much more progress that needs to be made in software development before anything is ever not in a state where we're constantly needing to build.
The people, I think software developers are always going to have a career.
The message is we're going to have more interesting jobs because we're going to get to work on the cooler parts of things rather than the boss saying, hey, move that button 2 pixels to the left and could you make it blue this time?
Yeah, that's right. Like we're going to have the admin assistants like make 80% of the app, and then we're going to make an AI that makes the last 20%.
Yeah, exactly. And the AI tools are going to, and humans are going to be using that AI, and the AI tools are going to be getting so much more sophisticated that even if you're thinking right now, hey, machine learning, that's too much math, that's something I'd never do. I think there's going to be a path forward in that and a lot of other exciting areas. So I think our field will, I think we can make our development, our tools a lot more efficient and productive and absorb a lot more people into our field and still have more interesting and more lucrative jobs. And I guess to just say that's something I think about a lot too, because I've always been interested in two things. One is complex systems and the other is people. I guess some people would say they're really the same thing, but that's why I love Meteor so much, because it's both a community and it's also a big block of systems engineering work. And that's
what I was going to say. Like you were saying, like this might be impossible. Like other people have tried to do this in the past. I don't think anyone has. I think most of the time people have tried to accomplish your vision in a vacuum. And Meteor MDG is approaching it much differently. So,
can I just say also, I'm really proud of what the Meteor community has accomplished, because it turns out that there a lot of projects like Meteor start, like attempts to build a complete end-to-end stack, and it's very rare. It's like vanishingly rare that anyone or any community succeeds in carrying that project all the way forward to a 1.0 version. And you can think about things like, even if you take something like MongoDB, just to pick one example, and I'll pick on them because they're obviously a very successful company, so I don't think they'll mind. But Mongo originally had there was a version of Mongo that was a full stack framework for building applications, and they found that what made the most sense for them was to focus on the persistence component of that, because they built this great store and it was timely with NoSQL. But there's a lot of stories out there of attempts to build complete stacks, and one of the things I'm really proud of about our community, and I think you're absolutely right that it is because of the community, it's because of us all working together. And the local Meteor meetups in 200 cities around the world now, and other just mind-blowing stats. That's why we've been able to succeed where a lot of other groups of smart, dedicated, visionary people maybe ended up on a different path in building a complete platform.
Yeah. I'm excited.
I have another thing from the bad idea file.
Woohoo! I was hoping so.
If you have a minute,
can I just say I'm so jealous because I never get to have this conversation with Geoff, because I never came up with this idea of asking this question that you had, Ben. So I have follow-up thoughts now. I'm gonna go poke Geoff's brain.
Well, I know that we as a company need to stay focused on meeting the needs of our users today, and maybe we should just go and have a beer sometime, and we can go through the bad idea file.
Oh, don't be hesitant. Don't be hesitant.
I would hate to get people too excited about any of these ideas, because they're not on the roadmap for this year. But I do think there's a ton of possibilities.
Well, we've got to hear at least one.
We'll do this. We'll do this caveat, guys. Geoff's about to spill something for Meteor 5.0.
Okay.
Is it till 2030?
Okay. Okay. So here's another one. So let me start out by painting a picture. Again, let me back up a bit and say how do we get here? So if you think about the history of apps, there's been 4 eras. There's the mainframe era, the PC era, the web era, and then this new era of apps, or we call it connected client sometimes. Gartner calls it cloud client. So in the mainframe era, apps lived on a server. You had a dumb terminal, which is like a TV typewriter basically on your desktop, and the app ran on the mainframe. It pushed a rendered screen down to the dumb terminal, which displayed it, and then maybe you could pick a menu item, maybe you could fill out a form, and then that would get submitted back to the mainframe and you get a new screen. And then computers got small and fast and cheap. Everyone could have one on their desktop. That was the PC era. And in the PC era, suddenly we had these graphical user interfaces. We had software that you installed on your computer. And for a lot of people, they just ran their PC and it was a standalone thing. And the only networking was floppy disks. But in bigger environments, in corporate environments, in organizational environments, you'd have client-server software that talked to services running in your data center over your wide area network, and through an N-tier architecture with middleware. Slightly different use of the word middleware than JavaScript programmers use today, but the same idea of connecting two things together. And often these services in the most sophisticated environments were highly available, distributed, backup services. So it was a lot of progress that happened. And there was this shift from presentation on the wire to data on the wire. So there's this move from the actual bytes that are going to be on your screen going over the network to data that would then go to your Windows PC or whatever you had that would then would be bound to a bunch of user interface elements, so you'd have a graphical user interface. So then a really interesting thing happened. And so there was a huge investment in this shift to client server and to GUIs. And then a really surprising thing happened, which is the internet happened, the web happened, and we returned to the mainframe architecture. Instead of calling them dumb terminals, we called them web browsers. Instead of calling it, IBM 3270, we called it HTML. But it's the same idea of the software runs far away. You've got a passive display device. It's just smart enough to let you pick an option or maybe fill out a form. And that was, so we rewound all that work that had been done, and we went back to a presentation on the wire architecture. And so it turns out these cycles are maybe 10 or 20 years long. Now, about 20 years after the beginning of the web, the pendulums swung back again, maybe for the last time. I don't know. I think it's hard to tell. And once again, we've got thick client applications where you install the app on your phone, or maybe the app is instantly installed. You type facebook.com, enter, and it downloads a bunch of JavaScript. It's basically installing a program in a sandbox in your web browser. And we're back to data on the wire. So here's my point. The whole history of the internet, we're only now entering the era where apps connect between clients and servers over, with data. So whereas in the past, like if you think about Google and the whole idea of a search engine, that's really based on the idea of the web as a library rather than the web as an app. And it's based on the idea of websites basically being collections of HTML files that Google's going to go index for you, rather than being based on the idea of cloud services that serve up APIs and data publications. Like maybe you can think about like GraphQL endpoints if you like, or like Meteor, DDP publications that serve up data to a bunch of clients. So, maybe a couple of years ago, maybe 5+ years ago, there was this idea of the semantic web, which is maybe we can get everything to expose an API so we can make all that data available to machine processing. And if we did that, we could build these amazing mashups and combinations, and we could build these data search engines. We could build all this cool stuff. But it was, in the end, we couldn't get anyone to adopt any of the semantic web protocols like RDF. And it didn't really go where anyone was hoping. And I think it's because it was a little too early, and also because there wasn't enough of a forcing function to get people to go expose their data in a structured or principled way. But what's happening now is we are entering an era where apps naturally have an API. They naturally expose all of their data. It makes sense for the apps to provide really clean APIs just so it's easy to do the client development. And maybe that opens up the door for this much richer web based on data. So if you just think about things through the Meteor lens, what happens if all DDP endpoints in the world are self-describing? What if you could connect to a DDP server and say, hey, what publications do you have? What publications am I allowed to access? What are the types of the different fields in this publication? What micro formats do these types follow? How do they relate to other things on the internet? Like, oh, this is an email address. Okay, I know what that means. Oh, this is a link to a GitHub profile. Okay, I know what that means. What doors would that open if all DDP endpoints were self-describing, and maybe if there was a central registry and index so that you could crawl them all and find all the data? It would be a whole different way for us to approach the internet. And unlike the semantic web, we could get there just by what people do to build better apps. So this is something that had been in my bad idea file for a long time, with some like really crazy designs for DDP protocol extensions that would enable this.
Well, you know what's self-describing.
Yeah, and so so what's self-describing, Sashko?
GraphQL is self-describing.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was going to be another 10 or 20 years before we'd go get to build the universal self-describing data protocol for the internet. But then this GraphQL thing comes along, and that's really interesting. Like, I think we should keep a laser focus for the next couple of years on just making GraphQL work for apps and proving the value proposition around GraphQL just for building connected clients and decoupling clients and servers and solving the problems relating to latency and network quality and power that we face when shipping lots of data down to mobile devices with these sophisticated view layer frameworks like Angular and React and Blaze. But I think there's another story to be told, because this is all part of a transition toward the Internet of Data. And I think the possibilities there are really yet to be explored. It could be nothing. Like, maybe we're just going to use this stuff to power our apps, but it could be some really exciting stuff. It could lead to the robot uprising and extinction of the human race. Maybe we're going to look back on GraphQL as humanity's big mistake. I don't know.
That's
But you asked for something from the bad idea files, so there's my futurology for the day.
Wow. My mind is blown. I have too many doomsday stories going on in my brain right now.
A gentle, friendlier doomsday. Doomsday with the place for all sentient beings. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Stephen Wolfram would be very excited about this day, right? Where you get all the data from the internet and Mathematica.
Yeah. That's probably the early adopter. It's Wolfram Alpha. It's a Wolfram Alpha spider that consumes all the GraphQL data. Just start with that and ask yourself, like, where do the possibilities go? The other thing is, this also solves a lot of the problems relating to that, like my first bad idea relating to graphical user interface builders, because now we've got the self-describing schema. You can just open up your thing and you can quickly mash together 7 different internet services, and it's all right there. It's all this. It just makes it has a potential to make APIs easier to consume and easier to combine in a more automated, easy to use way than anything that I think we can conveniently imagine right now. So maybe it'll be nothing, but I'm really excited to see where it goes.
Man, I'm stoked about Apollo even more now. So I'm thinking of theoretical physicists who talk about the levels of society, or measuring intelligence when they're looking for it out in space and all that stuff, and how they see the internet as like a phone system of information. What is that one guy describes it as? I can't even pronounce that. Asian guy with the white hair, works over at College of New York. Forget his name.
Sorry.
Mario. I can't even pronounce it.
Starts with a K.
I think so.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't know how to pronounce it either. Sorry.
I'm glad you know who I'm talking about. Okay, so like, this is like on the rank of ranking intelligent life. Right now, we're like at 0. We're not even on like the 3-point scale. And how you're describing data and how you envision it in the future, like, I think that's exactly how they envision it as like a category 1.
I just want to make sure we keep perspective here too. This is something that's going to unfold over decades, maybe. This is the realm of science fiction. I just want to make sure everyone understands that what we're focused on now is the needs of the Meteor community and bringing you SQL support. So yeah.
Yes.
Maybe in some way it could lead to this amazing future, but for now we're going to give you SQL.
Yes, this is late Friday. Okay, late Friday. This is in beer territory right now.
and SQL probably isn't going to bring the robot apocalypse just yet.
No, no. Oh, so good. So good. Okay. Huge thank you.
Thank you.
To Geoff. Thank
really
you
fun.
for joining me. Woo.
Let's do it
This is
again sometime.
I think we need to, because I got a whole second half of questions that I need to ask you. So this is a great time to give my special thanks to the community members that gave me the encouragement and the questions to ask Geoff. ABC Order, Abi Iyer from WorkPop, Aranota, I'm going to murder your last name, Cesara Pala from Kadera. Sorry, Aranota. Charles Nelson and Paul Dowman from OK Grow, Dave Anderson, Ian Serlin from Useful IO, Josh Owens from Space Dojo, Max Savan from Meteor Toys, Pete Corey from East Fifth, Rishi Gomer from Meteor Weekly, Sasha Grief from Discover Meteor. And if I forgot anyone else, I'm so sorry, but thank you. It was awesome, the collaboration in the background of putting this together. And then on the MDG side, Sashko, I want to give you a big thanks for organizing this and getting this going.
Well, thanks for Geoff for taking out time for his busy schedule to come talk to us. It's always exciting to hear from Geoff.
Sure. It's been fun. I'd love to do more of it.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, in the meantime, go out and enjoy building amazing things with Meteor.
All right. Thanks.
Partial transmission complete.
Transmission, a weekly show about the most impactful posts from our Meteor.js forums. This show is sponsored by Meteor Galaxy Hosting, a containerized cloud service specifically designed and engineered for Meteor app deployment. Learn more at meteor.com/galaxy. This show is also sponsored by OK Grow, an official Meteor consulting partner building full stack web and mobile apps. Learn more at okgrow.com.